All right, what's good, y'all? So Scottie Pippen, he's been down bad right now. Recently, he's come out and said that his former coach Phil Jackson is a racist, and basically he's saying that Phil Jackson's a racist because he let Tony Kukoc take the last shot instead of him. That's basically what he's saying. I mean, I've seen to where I can't get the quote exactly, but he said something along the lines of, "Man, why are you letting Tony Kukoc, the rookie, get the last second shot and making me inbound the ball?" Or something like that. I mean, that's what I mean. It's racial. It's being racist. No, is Phil Jackson a racist? I don't know. I don't really care either. But over a play like that, when you give the better shooter the ball at the end of the game, that's tough to call racist just on that alone. But anyways, let's get into this.
I respect Scottie, six-time champion, all-time great player.
Yeah, Stephen A. go again. Always saying, six-time champion, he did this and that, blah, blah, blah. Always got to praise the man before he tears him down or brings him back down to earth.
I think this is one of the stupidest, most idiotic things he's ever said or done. And the way he looked in that interview, let me just say, staying off the weed wouldn't be strong enough, and I'll leave it at that. Um, if you go back, Scottie's got to
I mean, you got to stay off the drinks. There you go. I mean, it's clear that he was drinking last video.
recognize the fact that in this day and age, we have the tapes, we have the information. The game after that whole incident took place where Scottie Pippen refused to enter the game because Phil Jackson had drawn up a play for Tony Kukoc instead of Scottie Pippen back in the 90s, 1994, whenever it was. The day after, the next game rather, I believe the Chicago Bulls had won the game. When that transpired, Ahmad Rashad was interviewing Scottie Pippen on the court. Scottie Pippen said, "I've apologized to the team. I've apologized to Phil Jackson. It was stupidity on my part."
Yeah, but he's seen that in an interview, Stephen A. Smith. I mean, you can't you can't expect NBA players to be completely transparent and be completely honest in an interview. Sometimes, at least in the NBA, at least they got to say what they got to say just so they can get by.
There's video that you can find today, because I saw it, I have it. There's video where he's literally seen on video saying that to Ahmad Rashad. So now, all
Oh, well, never mind. Maybe it's true.
of these years later, 27 years later, Phil Jackson's a racist. The same Phil Jackson that coached you, that coached MJ, that coached guys like Bill Cartwright and BJ Armstrong.
I mean, just because you coach some black players doesn't mean doesn't mean not make you a racist. Let's make that clear. Just because you can coach some black players doesn't mean you're not a racist. But at the same time, it really shouldn't matter that much to Scottie Pippen.
And others, and Stacey King and all these guys. Same Phil Jackson that coached Michael, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. Each and every single player at some point in time or another had issues with Phil Jackson. Kobe Bryant was on the record saying, "Yeah, man, he likes to coach through the media sometimes." It annoyed the hell out of Kobe. I always felt he betrayed Kobe when Phil Jackson came out with his book talking about how difficult it was to coach Kobe Bryant. But I would never, ever think to call Phil Jackson a racist. And I don't.
Well, you got to take into account that Scottie Pippen, he's been with, even though he brought up a horrible situation, at least to me, to prove that to be an example. Scottie Pippen's been with them for it's over 6 years at least. So you got the 2 years Jordan was out, so probably eight. He's been with Phil Jackson for 8 years during his time in the NBA. So maybe he knows something we don't know about. That is possible.
Know any player, I repeat, any player who happens to be black that played for Phil Jackson that would call him a racist. And for Scottie Pippen to do something like that is just inexcusable. It really, really is. It's low. It's really, really low. 27 years later, if the man was a racist, why are we just hearing this from you after all these years? Why
Well,
now?
I have a theory on that, Stephen A.
Well, let's hear Max's theory.
Okay.
You know,
Give me your theory.
this business that we're in, people can say part of that is selling hot takes. What's a hot take? A hot take is you thought about
Scottie Pippen has been the king of hot takes so far. Talking about LeBron never won a championship, or LeBron won a championship with no help.
something, you come to a counterintuitive conclusion. You're like, I don't care if everyone else doesn't agree. I'm going to say it, right? That's a hot take. But you
Does
really
it involve you
believe what
believing
say.
it, Max? Does
Yeah,
it involve?
no,
Do you believe it?
You believe it. You
Okay,
believe it, but you
okay,
know it's hot
okay,
because people, if you had to think about it for a while to say, actually, I think this is not what everyone thinks. That's different than a shock jock. Remember back in the day, growing up in New York, you had shock jocks on the radio. You knew they were intentionally saying stuff to shock people because that's how they sold advertising, right? You ask, why is Scottie Pippen saying this now? Stephen A., the only thing I can say, and I'm not saying, I don't know what Scottie Pippen really believes, but he's got a book coming out and he's got a bourbon out right now. He's got.
There you go. Max Kellerman is using his brain. Scottie Pippen is using notoriety, I see. Or at least that's Max Kellerman's assertion.
And now he's making the rounds in media, saying things that you would expect from a shock jock. He's saying shocking things that maybe he believes them, maybe he doesn't, but I'm sure he probably believes what he says. I'd like to think, but
What Max is trying to say in a roundabout way is that he's saying that there's no such thing as bad publicity. There you go. Made it super simple, super quick.
he knows it's going to get attention, and he has two things that he's selling right now, and I just talked about them, his book and his bourbon, and maybe that's why now.
You know what, Max? That makes a lot of sense. I'm not going to disagree with you about that being a possibility. You may be totally, totally right. Let me say this as a black man. When you say racist, you better know what the hell you're talking about. And you better know who the hell you're talking about. This is a very dangerous time that
Before I let Stephen A go on, I mean, it's like, man, you better know what you're talking about, or what this other person's talking about. Man, I get it. Racist things happen. Racist things happen. It's like, what are you going to do? That's all. That's all my thing is. What's the solution? Like, I understand there's racist people or whatever, but you still gotta, still gotta find a solution at the end of the day.
we're living in, and it's more divisive than it's ever been as far as I'm concerned. Max,
People will always be divided until people think exactly the same. People are always going to be divided on something, no matter what it is, no matter how low or high it is.
I can sit up there and talk about, okay, this is a racist act, or this resembles racist behavior. Notice how there's a dichotomy that exists. There's a line that's drawn in the sand before I character assassinate a person by calling them racist. Just because you white and you happen to disagree with me or make me unhappy or we don't vibe in terms of our thinking does not make you a racist. And as a black man, I think it's
Sure, I can't tell. I can't tell. Man, I see. Man, you look on social media, a white boy disagree with somebody that's black, and and all hell breaks loose.
incredibly important that I say that. I don't view everybody that's white that disagrees with me or that's hurt my feelings or that I have a problem with as racist.
Well, that's good for you, Stephen A. Keep that mentality.
I don't think that, and I don't think that Scottie Pippen should be playing for a man, winning 6 championships, never uttered a word against Phil Jackson. In all of those years he played for him. And then when Phil left,
But why would he utter a word during that time? That doesn't make sense. He's trying to make as much money as he can.
game and came back and went and coached the Lakers. And Scottie Pippen was on television giving analysis. Never called them that. But 27 years later, again, when you may be trying to sell a book and a bourbon line or whatever it is, all of a sudden the man is racist. Now, Max, you know me, bro. I don't like Phil Jackson too much because of what he did to my Knicks. I still haven't forgiven that man for stealing money from the Knicks.
Yeah, but again, Scottie Pippen has been with them for what, 8 years? 8? Like, come on, man. At least 8, I'll say, or at least 6.
Way that he did for sleeping on the damn job with his bad hips and everything else in between.
You meant as coach of the Bulls.
Phil Jackson, the coach, I love. Phil Jackson, the coach, I love. Phil Jackson, the coach that was interviewed, that's the 11-time champion, I love. My problem is that they weren't with the Knicks. I'm a Knicks fan. So to watch the job this man did with the Knicks is unconscionable, okay? And I have to sit up here and get away from my vitriol towards this man because of the job that he did for the Knicks, to come front and center and remember that I am a black man and a human being, and I'm looking at a white individual in Phil Jackson who has a history with the Knicks and had a lot of friends there, black and white, has friends throughout the league, black and white, and a lot of people think.
So basically, Stephen A. Smith don't like Phil Jackson because the Bulls beat the Knicks. That's what it sounds like to me.
He's an a-hole. This is what they say about him, too. You have friends and you have enemies. No one has called him a racist.
You know what else?
But Scottie Pippen just did.
You know
after 27 years. That's unconscionable. It really is.
Anyways, that's about it on that. Scottie Pippen is mad because a white boy got to shoot over him to win the game. And I'm pretty sure Kukoc hit it too. It's not that deep, at least in that particular situation. Anyways, make sure y'all hit the Instagram, Young Swift too. Check out the podcast. Links in the description down below. Anyways, peace.